They did not drag her into the city at night. They waited for daylight. The sun rose slowly over stone streets already packed with people. No one shouted. No one protested. The silence was heavy, like the air before a storm. Everyone knew why they were there. Everyone knew what was about to happen. Chains cut into the queen's wrists as Roman soldiers pushed her forward. Just days ago, people bowed when she passed. Now they stared at the ground or looked away, afraid that even their eyes might be seen as an act of rebellion. Her crown was gone. Her royal clothes were torn away, but she still walked upright. This was how Rome broke queens. Not with mercy, not with justice, but with humiliation, fear, and slow cruelty. The soldiers did not care about her laws, her gods, or the promises once made between empires. To them, she was not a ruler anymore. She was property, a prize of war, something to be displayed, used, or destroyed. Worse still, they did not stop with her. Her daughters were pulled from her side, small hands reaching back, soft cries swallowed by the noise of armor and boots. A mother's heart can endure many things, but this was the moment when even the strongest souls felt something tear inside. The crowd stayed quiet because they understood the rules of power. Today it was her. Tomorrow it could be anyone. Rome called itself the greatest civilization on earth. It spoke of law, order, and honor. But behind the banners and marble statues was another truth, one written on the bodies and minds of defeated queens. Some screamed, some begged, some died quickly, and some, like this queen, did something far more dangerous. They did not break. Her calm eyes unsettled the soldiers. They expected tears. They expected madness. Instead, they saw control, dignity, a woman who refused to give them the satisfaction of fear. Rome could conquer lands. Rome could burn cities. But a queen who refused to kneel was something Rome feared more than any army. This is not a story of glory. This is a story of what power does when no one is watching. This is the story of captured queens, and what Roman soldiers really did to them. Make sure to watch the video all the way till the end. I promise you're going to find it super informative. We put a lot of hard work into bringing you this content, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and share it with your friends. Your support helps the channel grow and motivates us to keep creating even better videos for you. The moment a queen was captured, her world ended. Not slowly, not gently, but in a single breath. For Roman soldiers, victory was not complete until it was displayed. Cities could burn, armies could fall, but a captured queen was something special. She was proof that Rome had crushed not just a land, but its pride, its spirit, and its future. When soldiers first surrounded her, there were no formal words, no respect, no pause to remember who she had been. Their hands were rough, trained for war, not mercy. Gold rings were ripped from her fingers. Silk robes were torn away. Anything that reminded them she was once powerful had to disappear. This was deliberate. Rome understood humiliation very well. The queen was not taken away in secret. That would have been too kind. She was marched through streets filled with people. Some had once cheered her name. Others feared her armies. Now they stood frozen, unsure whether to look or hide their faces. Silence followed her steps. People knew the rules. To cry was dangerous. To protest was death. Roman soldiers enjoyed this silence. It made them feel untouchable. They laughed among themselves, speaking openly about what would come next, as if she were not even there. To them, her fear was entertainment. Her pain was reward. But the queen understood something they did not. This was not just about her. Behind her walked her daughters, young, confused, terrified. The soldiers did not hesitate. They grabbed the girls roughly, pulling them away from their mother's side. A queen could endure hunger, chains, even torture, but no ruler is trained to watch her children suffer. This was Rome's true weapon, not the sword, not the spear, but control. The queen felt her body react before her mind could stop it. Her hands strained against the chains. Her breath became shallow. For one brief moment, the mask of calm almost fell. The soldiers noticed. They smiled. That was what they wanted, to see fear, desperation, madness. They believed every woman would break eventually. Queens were no different, or so they thought. But something unexpected happened. The queen straightened her back. She lifted her head. She said nothing. Her silence was louder than screams. The soldiers felt it, even if they did not understand it. Something about her calm unsettled them. A captured queen was supposed to beg, to cry, to curse the gods. Instead, she watched them closely, as if memorizing their faces, as if judging them. Rome claimed it civilized the world. Yet here stood its soldiers, dragging children away while calling it victory. The crowd watched, breathing slowly, afraid to move. They had seen this before. They knew what followed captivity. For queens, survival had nothing to do with justice. It depended on usefulness, and usefulness often came at a terrible price. This queen knew the truth now. Her title meant nothing. Her power was gone. But her dignity was the last thing Rome had not yet taken. And she would not give it freely. Rome loved to speak of law. Its leaders praised justice, order, and rules written in stone. They claimed their empire stood above chaos, that Roman law protected all who lived under its shadow. But for captured queens, those laws vanished the moment the battle ended. On the battlefield, there was no court, no trial, no appeal, only decisions made by men holding weapons. Once inside Roman control, a queen was no longer a ruler. She was a spoil of war. Her past agreements, her alliances, even her surrender meant nothing. Roman soldiers did not ask permission. They did not seek approval. They acted first and explained later, if they explained at all. The march toward Rome was long and deliberate. Chains were kept visible. Guards ensured she walked slowly, so everyone could see her. This was a message sent far beyond her kingdom. Resistance ends like this. Villagers lined the roads. Some recognized her face. Some had prayed for her victory. Now they watched her dragged forward, surrounded by iron and cruelty. The soldiers allowed the people to stare. Fear was part of the punishment. At night there was no comfort. Queens slept on cold ground, still chained, guarded closely. Food was given only when necessary. Water came slowly. Every hardship was carefully controlled. Not enough to kill her, but enough to weaken her. The daughters suffered more. Roman soldiers understood something deeply cruel. Pain travels fastest through family. The girls were separated often, taken where their mother could not see them. Their cries echoed through the camps, cutting deeper than any blade. This was not chaos. This was strategy. The queen remained silent, but inside her mind, everything was burning. She measured each moment. She knew anger would give her captors power. Despair would please them, so she chose stillness. That choice confused the soldiers. They had seen women collapse. They had seen nobles beg to die. But this queen did neither. She did not argue. She did not plead. She watched. She remembered. And Rome feared memory. When they reached Roman territory, the cruelty became more organized. Now it was no longer soldiers acting alone. Officials arrived. Orders were whispered. Decisions were made in private rooms while the queen waited in chains. Her fate was being decided without her voice. Would she be paraded in triumph? Would she be imprisoned? Would she be killed quietly? Or would something worse be chosen? For Roman leaders, queens were symbols. Keeping her alive could send a message. Killing her could inspire rebellion. Using her was often the most useful choice of all. The queen understood this balance of fear and advantage. She had played similar games in her own rule. Now she was on the other side. And Rome did not play gently. The laws that once protected citizens did not apply to enemies, especially not powerful women who reminded Rome that its control was never absolute. A queen in chains was proof of Roman strength. But a queen who remained unbroken was proof of something else, something dangerous. By the time the queen reached Rome, the soldiers were no longer celebrating. Something had changed. They expected her to look defeated, weak, hollow. Instead, she still walked with purpose. Chains marked her skin. Dirt clung to her clothes, but her eyes were clear, steady, and alert. That unsettled them. Rome was a city built on spectacle. Victory had to be seen to be believed. Triumphs were loud events. Music, shouting crowds, flowers thrown beneath marching boots. Defeated kings were displayed like captured animals. Broken leaders were meant to look broken. But this queen refused to perform. As she was prepared for public display, servants were ordered to dress her, not in royal clothing, but in garments chosen to humiliate. Heavy chains were placed around her neck, wrists, and ankles. They were not needed for security. They were needed for the message. Look what happens to those who challenge Rome. The crowd gathered early. People climbed walls and rooftops to see her pass. Some came out of curiosity. Others came out of fear. Mothers covered their children's eyes, then slowly moved their hands away again. Everyone felt the tension in the air. This was not entertainment. This was a warning. When the procession began, soldiers shouted orders. Drums beat slowly. The queen stepped forward, her pace measured, her head held high. The crowd waited for something. Tears, screams, collapse. None came. Her silence spread unease through the streets. A woman who screamed was easy to understand. Pain made sense. Fear was familiar, but silence suggested control. And control, even in chains, was powerful. Some soldiers avoided looking at her. Others stared too long, angry that she denied them satisfaction. A few whispered among themselves, uneasy at how calm she remained. They had taken everything from her, yet she acted as if something still belonged to her. It did. Her dignity. Roman officials watched closely. They noticed how the crowd reacted. Not with laughter, not with joy, but with discomfort. This was not the response they wanted. A defeated queen was supposed to confirm Roman greatness, not raise quiet questions. What kind of woman could endure this and not break? The queen understood the crowd better than her captors did. She knew people were watching not just her suffering, but her behavior. Every step was a statement. Every breath was a refusal to surrender her identity. Rome ruled by fear, but fear worked best when victims begged. She would not beg. Behind closed doors, Roman leaders argued. Some said she should be executed quickly. Others believed killing her would turn her into a martyr. A dead queen could inspire rebellion. A living one could be controlled. But control was proving difficult. The soldiers had broken cities. They had crushed armies. But this woman's silence felt like resistance. And Rome did not tolerate resistance, especially from someone it had already declared defeated. Her fate was still undecided. But one thing was clear now. Breaking her body would not be enough. The queen was not alone in her suffering. Across the vast Roman Empire, other queens had walked the same path. Different lands, different cultures, but the ending was often the same. Rome did not care where a woman came from. Once she was defeated, her identity became Rome's to reshape. Some queens were executed quickly, their deaths hidden from public view. Rome feared creating martyrs. A quiet death left no story to inspire rebellion. These women vanished from history, remembered only in whispers. Others were paraded in triumphs. They were chained and forced to walk through cheering crowds. Their humiliation turned into celebration. Their children were displayed beside them, silent and terrified. Rome wanted the world to see that even royalty could be reduced to nothing. A few queens were imprisoned for life, locked away in distant fortresses. They lived long enough to be forgotten. No letters, no visitors, just walls and silence. Survival became its own punishment. And then there were those Rome found useful. These queens were kept alive as symbols. They were used in negotiations, in propaganda, in stories rewritten by Roman writers. Their intelligence was exploited. Their names were twisted. Their victories erased. Their defeats exaggerated. Rome preferred living proof of dominance. But usefulness came with constant danger. The moment a queen stopped being valuable, her life could end. There was no warning, no final words, just an order given and carried out. The queen understood she was walking on a narrow path. Every breath she took depended on Roman interest. Every day alive was borrowed time. She thought often of the others who had come before her. Women who had ruled armies, built cities, defended their people, and ended their lives in chains. Rome called this order. Rome called this civilization. Yet the empire was built on broken bodies and stolen dignity. What made this queen different was not strength alone. It was awareness. She saw Rome clearly now, not as an unstoppable force, but as a system that feared losing control. And fear makes empires cruel. She began to realize something important. Rome could decide her body's fate, but it could not fully control how she would be remembered. That power still belonged to her. Her calm, her refusal to collapse, her visible dignity. These things lingered in the minds of those who saw her. Soldiers remembered. Citizens whispered. Even officials questioned themselves in quiet moments. Rome had captured her body, but it had not captured her story. In the end, Rome never truly decided what to do with her. That was the irony. The greatest empire in the world, with armies that crushed nations and laws that ruled millions, struggled with one woman who refused to disappear. The queen remained alive, but always watched. She was neither free nor fully imprisoned. Rome kept her in a state of waiting, unsure whether to turn her into a symbol or erase her quietly. This uncertainty became her daily reality. She never saw her daughters again. That loss never healed. It lived inside her, silent and constant. But even grief did not bend her spirit. Rome expected madness. It expected surrender. Instead, it received endurance. Roman writers later described her in careful words. They praised her intelligence while minimizing her power. They spoke of her defeat, not her resistance. History, written by victors, tried to smooth the sharp edges of her story. But truth does not vanish so easily. People remembered the queen who walked in chains without lowering her head. Soldiers remembered the woman who did not beg. Citizens remembered the discomfort they felt watching her suffer in silence. Rome learned an uncomfortable lesson. You can conquer land. You can destroy cities. But breaking the human spirit is never guaranteed. Across the empire, queens continued to rise and fall. Some would face the same cruel choices. Some would not survive. Others would live long enough to be used and discarded. But the memory of this queen endured, not because Rome allowed it, but because she forced it. Her story became a quiet warning. Power built on cruelty is never secure. Empires that rely on humiliation reveal their own fear. Rome claimed strength, yet it trembled before a woman who refused to kneel. History often celebrates conquerors. It builds statues to generals and emperors. But beneath those monuments lie forgotten stories of women whose only crime was defending their people. This queen did not win her war, but she won something else. She denied Rome the satisfaction of total victory, and that, for an empire obsessed with control, was the most unsettling defeat of all.